You know, the secret to success is not necessarily big things. It's small things, but with amazing consistency. Because if you just take in the atmosphere, the sights, the sounds, the smells, just be. We're humans doing, we're not humans being. We need to start just living. Just cut some of the noise out and don't get contaminated by what's going on in the world.
None of your business, Ushi. None of your business, Michael.
It's the None of Your Business podcast, hosted by Michael and Ushi.
Welcome back, everybody, to another uplifting, inspiring, energetic, growth-oriented podcast. We are here today with the revered...
I wouldn't say that.
with the admired, with my good friend...
That you can say.
Noiky Roberts. Noiky, I'm excited to introduce you to the world and to our audience. But before we do, let me just thank all our subscribers and our comments and the people getting involved. We are growing and we're loving the growth. And thank you to the Prime Source production team. You know, today we are starting off this podcast with a missing seat.
I see that.
Yes, you know, Ushi had a urgent matter that came up, so he couldn't be here in time to start this thing.
We can make it like Eliyahu Hanavi, you know, we feel his kais, we feel his presence. He's not quite here at the moment, but we're waiting him.
I love that. So when he comes in, we're going to have to stand up, obviously.
Absolutely.
You know, Ushi has his mug here, so, you know, I like that perspective. But because he's not here, I might be able to do things a little differently.
Go for it.
One of the things I always like to do is light a candle, and he doesn't let me. I used to do it in the beginning of the podcast, like, you know, for the first few, and he's like, what are you lighting candles and
Who's the boss anyway?
Drinking away? That's, you know, great question. So today, Ushi, I am going to light a candle. And one of the reasons why I like to light a candle is, besides the fact that it looks good and smells good and feels good, is I like to celebrate people's neshamas.
Oh,
And that's something that I like to take very seriously. And
that's beautiful.
I do that in terms of, I guess I do it for me more than anything else. You know, I like to reflect back on history and see who made an impact on this world. This week, well, it's not going to be aired at the time that the yard sites are, so it is what it is. But Rav Pam's yard site is this week. And I was in Torah Vadas. I had the pleasure of meeting him twice. Thank God he didn't give me a farher or a test or anything. It was just a good morning. You know, but he made a tremendous impact on me. And Torah Vadas in general is an amazing, you know, Torah-filled.
I know an amazing story about Rav Pam.
Really?
I've said it many, many times, yeah.
Let's get started.
I was on someone else's podcast. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention that.
You're allowed to mention anything.
Okay.
Who's that?
I was on Meaningful People. They asked me, I was unscripted. I didn't know what to expect. And I just spoke probably too much. And one of the questions they asked me was favorite mitzvah or something like that. And I wasn't really prepared. And I said Kiddush Levana, right? Which is a weird choice, right? And you talk about inspiring and uplifting. Why the Yidden look to the Levana is because it waxes and it wanes, it renews. It can seem full at one point, and then all of a sudden it's disappeared and it's gone. And that's the story of the Yidden. That's the story of the Jewish people. And there's a very beautiful segula that a person who, we're told, Chazal tell us, a person who says Kiddush Levana, he won't have a Misa Mashuna. It's almost like your life insurance policy. And I know that Rav Pam, towards the end of his life, when he was in hospital, and he asked for his bed to be by the window, so he would be able to say Kiddush Levana from his bed. And if I'm not mistaken, and again, unscripted, I haven't looked at notes. If I'm not mistaken, his bed was moved. And that's when he was nefta.
Wow.
When he was unable to say Kiddush Levana that month, he was nefta. So you talk about Rav Pam, you light a candle. It's beautiful.
You know what? This is inspiring me to continue to do this.
You should.
And I'm going to force my way to do this every single podcast. And I'm loving it. Nike, we have a segment here that we call, What Does ChatGPT Say About You?
Uh-oh.
We call it ChatGPT Says What? And the beauty of what we're doing here is we are just identifying who you are to the world based on what the internet knows about you.
I'm bracing myself already, but go for it.
This guy basically is a rabbi, singer, therapist, and tour guide, which means he can marry you, sing at your wedding, calm your nerves, and then show you around Gibraltar all before dessert.
Together with priests and bishops. And remind me, the tour guide bit is a joke, but I'll tell you in a minute. But keep
Go
going.
for it. No, go for it.
you know Jeff Seidel.
Sure, Jeff
He's such a legend.
Jeff
So
Seidel is the man that stands by the hotel, who makes sure everyone has a meal
What an
Friday
amazing
night.
guy.
An
Now
amazing individual.
a very, very close friend of mine, Asher Milstein, he lives in Miami now. He's supports him a lot, and he has a center now. And Jeff knows me through mutual friends, etc. I remember Jeff when I was a Bachar Notes Israel, when we were there together, a few weekends ago, right? And Jeff does so much for Hachnas Orchim, and he's not even content with just finding people places at the Koisel. So he learned of me being, I guess, a rabbi and a personality in Gibraltar, a noisemaker in Gibraltar. So he says, I gotta have your name and your address. I gotta put it on my Shabbos. If anybody needs Shabbos in Gibraltar, could they come to you? And in a moment of madness, I said, yes, my name is now published. My address is out there. I'll get emails, random emails from people saying, hey, I'm coming to Gibraltar with my family of 5. Please, can you put me up for meals? They think I'm like Chabad.
Wow.
But I want to tell you something. You talk about the zechus of that. I've never once told the person, that's not my job. I never signed up for this. If people, I think, want some information on Gibraltar, but people think I'm a tour guide, and now clearly so does ChatGPT. I think it's Jeff Seidel's, I was going to say fault, but I'm going to say zechus.
There you go.
I'm not really a tour guide.
Originally from Gateshead, England,
That's true.
detoured through Atlanta, Georgia, and somehow landed in Gibraltar. Forget jet lag. His resume has frequent flyer miles. That's true. That's an interesting journey, and I can't wait to hear about it. Known as the Rock of Gibraltar. In more ways than one, spiritually steady, musically ready, and probably impossible to move in a game of tug of war. Okay, you look like a pretty strong guy. Okay, all right, fine, no problem. Listen, I don't make this stuff up. His Instagram bio. You have an Instagram?
I have for my singing. For my singing, I have.
So you do have multiple different types of talents and personalities.
Well, I've never marketed myself as a singer because it's really only a side gig. But I've recently stepped down from my day-to-day duties. Maybe we'll get to that. I hope not. But so I'll do more of that, hopefully.
I hope too. So wedding and Jewish event singer.
Yeah.
Recently in the news for reminding everyone that Passover equals family plus freedom, which is wild because most of us just remember the 10 plagues.
Easy.
And you bring out the best of the brisket. This is ChatGPT. I don't know. What is that all about?
So in Gibraltar, we'll start at the beginning. I came to Gibraltar many years ago as a mechanech, as somebody involved in Kiruv, as somebody who can get involved in the community. And
if you don't mind, I have to pause because it's on my mind. I'm sure it's on everyone. What is Gibraltar? Okay. Where is it? Am I saying it right?
You're saying Gibraltar.
How many Jews live there?
Right.
Why have I not been there if it's so beautiful from what I hear?
But
tell me about it.
Right. Gibraltar is a gorgeous little rock that sits on the southern tip of Spain, branching the Mediterranean in the Atlantic Oceans in the Straits of Gibraltar. The Chazon Ish says the only place in the world that you can say Baruch Atah Hashem osa es hayom hagadol is looking over the Straits of Gibraltar, because the Yom HaGadol is either the Atlantic or it's the Mediterranean, and where they meet in this tiny little narrow neck of water is what I see from my window every day.
Wow.
So Africa is just across the water, 12 miles across the water, and it's this little British colony. You see British policemen and it's British pounds and a British passport, but most people on the street speak Spanish because we border with Spain. I buy my vegetables in Spain. And Gibraltar has had a Jewish community, a special Jewish community for hundreds of years. I mean, there are people there who can trace their families back generations, hundreds of years. One of our synagogues, our shuls, is more than 300 years old. They are an astonishing community of just, I don't want to say simple because that's such an unfair word, but they treat life with such beautiful simplicity rather than complicate life, which I think America's very good at doing, and maybe we'll get onto that later with therapy and this. Everyone's running, and I'm not too sure they know where. There it's the exact opposite. There is no keeping up with the Joneses. There's about 150 Jewish families of special, warm people living in the sun. I'll give you an example. I gave an Igeres HaRamban shiur for 17 years. Now that's a difficult one because the Igeres HaRamban is a short letter from the Ramban just telling you to be humble and don't get too big for your boots. And the same women would show up every single week and hear me say effectively the same thing again and again and again. And at one point I blurted out, I don't know why you're still here. And they're like, Rabbi, you remind us to be a good Jew. It's worth coming.
Wow.
They are so pure. They're so special. And I think the world can learn so much from the beauty of how they approach life, and particularly how they approach Avodas Hashem. They're such beautiful people. Let me tell you a story. I got married in Atlanta because my wife is from there. I moved first to Gateshead because I had visions of wanting to maybe go into law or whatever. And as I was starting in this guy's law firm, mainly driving his car and taking him to cases and learning the ropes. And he was done. He was an older lawyer, chavrusa of my father, and was done, wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael. My wife was working the front desk, and we were newly married. And England, the north of England, Gateshead is cold, and there's anti-Semitism, and it just wasn't it wasn't a nice place.
I thought all of England is cold and like that.
Fair enough.
Go ahead.
But, and after a few months of living there and being in that law firm and driving his car, etc., I came to be involved a little bit with chinuch. You know, I was a kid who was dropping out of high school, and this father came to me and said, do you want to teach my kid? I'm like, no. He's like, I'll give you £20 an hour. I said, I'll start tonight, right? In those days, it was a lot of money. And I didn't really know what to do. My father, Zaleh sein gesund und stark, he should be healthy and well, is a master mechanech. And I said to my dad, what do I do? I'm going to get paid real money. I'm not a teacher. What do I do? And he taught me the greatest lesson there is. He says, believe in the kid that you're sitting in front of. Love him. Encourage him. And when a person is valued and they can believe in themselves, you don't know what you're capable of. I don't know what I'm capable of. But negative limitations in your head will definitely stop you. So I brought this painfully shy kid into my house. And my wife's American, you know, she's baking cookies and like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, he couldn't even answer her. And it took like a few weeks until he opened up and he was looking forward to the cookies. And I'll never forget this day as long as I live. And I think it was the biggest gift Hashem gave me in my early career. This little boy knocked on my door. I thought someone was being murdered outside. There was a thump on my front door. And it was drizzling and raining because it was England, right? And he was standing there, 12-year-old kid. Maybe he was 11, I don't know. And he was doing this. He was crying. And he held up his Gemara test. And he said, I got 100. And this was a kid who never thought he could achieve anything. And I'm telling you, that moment, I melted with him. I was just like, such a beautiful thing to see that I didn't really do anything other than care about him. And at the same time, my wife sat me down and said she's unhappy. My brother was learning in Story of Gibraltar, picked up the phone 2 days later. I said to Hashem, I don't know, what do I do? I had my whole rabbis, machshavos, belevish. I thought, I might settle here and grow here and go to school here and get a degree here, etc. And my wife said, I can't do this. And 2 days later, I got a phone call from my brother, who was one of the first members of a kollel in Gibraltar 35 years ago. When Gibraltar was very traditionally a Sephardi community, but not necessarily, shall we say, a Torah community, what we know. I mean, they were beautiful people. I have a story about that in just a moment. But they wanted to further the Torah growth of Gibraltar. And they wanted to open some schools and things like that. And there was somebody there, our current president of the community, who wanted a mentor and a tutor for his children. And 2 days after davening to Hashem that I need a change, Gibraltar picked up the phone and said, do you want to come? And I remember we flew into Spain and we drove down this coast road. It's called the Costa del Sol, the coast of the sun, gorgeous palm trees. It's like living in Hawaii. It's just nuts. And I remember us being in the car on the way down, and she looked over at me and she said, okay, how this interview goes, we're moving here, right?
Really?
And I moved there on a 2-year contract.
From Atlanta, Georgia?
Right, from being 8 months in Gateshead, right?
Wow.
My wife's like, okay, we're gonna move here. And almost 3 decades later, I'm still there, albeit in a morphing role just at the moment, but it's a special place. And just to give you an indication of what the kind of place is, I know I said a minute ago it's not a Torah place, but an unfair characterization of it. They're very deeply spiritual, beautiful people. I remember one of my first, I was 22 years old when I moved there. And I came as a youth director, madrich noar, I don't know, like a Rebbe, a high school Rebbe, teaching a bit here and there and, being a mentor to the teenagers. And I walked into shul on Shabbos morning. There's 4 very beautiful shuls in Gibraltar.
With 100 and
and
somewhat families.
they're not like you would think in American shuls, this one's the Hasidic one and this one's the Litvish one. No, they're all the same. And they came out and say the exact same nusach. There's just families hundreds of years ago came and a slight different minhag, so they say this over here like this. And you should know, for the 4 shuls, there isn't really enough, peanut butter to spread to keep it evenly. So they're closed during the week. And one is open during the week. And everyone goes to that shul. And then 3 months down the line, we'll all go to that shul. And 3 months down the line, so they do a toranut, they do a rota. Now that the community's grown, 2 of the smaller shuls doesn't fit the daily minyan or the daily minyanim. The community's grown so much, Baruch Hashem. So the smaller shuls, they're all open on Shabbos and they're all open in Yom Tov. But one of the small shuls that I went to, Abu Draham, I walked in on Shabbos morning and I saw this near 80-year-old man stand up for me. And exactly, I did a double take. I'm like, does he think like secretly I'm, the God Ladar? I mean, there's clearly a mistake here. So I put it to bed. And the next week when he did it again, I'm like, I was decidedly uncomfortable. I think it took 3 or 4 weeks until I got to know who this man was. His name was Moshe Garson, a man who could probably quote most of Tanakh Baal Peh, who could learn any parsha of the week without preparing, You'd see him in the street. He's just whispering to himself. He's just saying to him or whatever it may be. This is a man, he was impressive by any stretch of the imagination. And I went to him and I said to him, you know the Torah well. You can learn any parsha, then you'll know. I have a doiraisa to stand for you, right? And not the other way around. It's very awkward. You're standing for me. And he looked at me as if I'd insulted him and his family. And he did this with his, no, you are the Torah. You came to teach the Torah. I stand for the Torah.
Wow.
And this was like, I hadn't done anything yet. But if I represented that's, I think, encapsulates what Gibraltar is.
That is amazing. Oh, she just walked in, so let's welcome into the program.
Good morning.
So we're back, and Noiky, Ushi, Noiky.
Ah.
We've made acquaintances.
Beautiful.
Very quickly. I really feel connected to him.
Beautiful.
I feel like we go way back. I feel like we have a history
you.
together. You also speak very eloquently. I can already tell.
I appreciate that.
I
Thank
love
you.
that.
Thank you.
And also you sound intelligent. I feel like anybody with an accent sounds more intelligent than Americans.
Yeah. I once got into
Automatically.
trouble on a comment on that because I went to a speakers forum in Atlanta, motivational speaking and that kind of stuff. And I gave a speech and an agent came to me and said to me something like that, right? And I was in a very sarcastic mood that day. And I think she said something on the lines of, with that accent, anyone's going to believe anything you say. I said, well, thank you for fundamentally reducing me to my external makeup. And she didn't get it. Basically, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give me a minute. Yeah. But
Yeah, she was judging you. Like she was, you know.
Just saying because of the way it looks and sounds.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're going to buy a car because it's red and shiny? I mean, check out the end. I mean,
Exactly.
I'm
least
learning
give me-
about you that you have smicha, so Rabbi Noiky
well,
Roberts.
ish, yes.
And the tour guide thing came from Jeff, but
Yeah.
I think you're also a therapist. You mentioned
That's true.
or ChatGPT mentioned that.
Yeah.
So
I
you
have
do
a degree.
practice, and
Maybe we can talk about this because I understand this is kind of one of your things. That I have a big issue with therapy, the way America particularly views therapy. Look, let's go from for a second, right? There's no child or baby that suffers from anxiety. Newborn babies, he were pure from the get-go, correct? And somehow on the process of the journey, we learn anxiety, we get depression. These things, one could argue, is learned practices and they're negative ones. And one of the things I learned quite quickly is that a good therapist is really not supposed to speak very much. You're supposed to sit there. A great psychologist once told me, you're the blank canvas. Your patient, your client is the artist. Let them paint the picture. Your job is to just give a narrative back of what you're hearing. So you're saying, try not to say very much. And the true deepest art of therapy is as the person sits there in a very safe space, not to be judged, with no distractions, just to think about what their life is. And they have to, don't forget, describe it to a total stranger. You get it's like a very powerful mirror. I can't tell you how many times it's happened to me over my career where somebody's sitting there and I'm biting my tongue, not to scream at them. Don't you see what you're saying? You do what to your wife? The person you're supposed to love the most, the person that will be there for you every day of the week, you what? I keep that quiet. And then I wait for the comment almost where the person says, wow, this sounds really bad the way I'm, boom. And one of the big beefs I have with America, maybe I shouldn't say this.
No, just go
You're-
for it. I
you've
mean, you are
welcomed me
leaving
in. I'm
today.
here, insulting you lot, but
As long as you're okay to receive it back.
you could give it back to me.
I don't like people that can
Yes.
dish, but they can't receive.
Oh yeah, no,
you
it's
know?
not. It's not a diss in the sense that I
Not
just want.
dish,
No, I'm,
dish. People that give
no,
out. You know what I mean?
I said diss though, but I'm not just dissing you just to one-upmanship. I'm not into that either. I just think this is something so deeply fundamentally wrong.
Yeah.
Where people live with their therapist.
Please bring it on.
And they have to see this shrink 2-3 times a week. And the Tony Robbins of this world will stand up and convince you that if you need his 10-week program to get better. You don't. You don't. Do you know the answers to your healthy life are in you already? You just have to find them. And a therapist isn't the person you need to lean on for the rest of your life. If you find a good therapist, or you're able to do it to yourself. I mean, davening is supposed to be deep meditation where you really connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is the answer to everything. Let me ask you a question. What would you rather have? $1 billion now, or to be a Baal Bitachon for the rest of your life?
Wow, that's a nasty question.
It's a wonderful question.
No.
It's
because you're
wonderful.
putting me in. I know what my answer is going to be, and I just don't want to say it right now. Because,
I'm gonna save you. Don't answer the question. Nobody should answer the question, but everyone listening should think about that question. And you're right. It's a tough question. It chops you at the knees. But here's the answer. Everyone is drawn to say $1 billion because that's the dream. That's what we're taught to.
yeah, and it'll be easier to have bitachon if I have $1 billion in my
And do you want to
bank.
know something? What does the Zohar call this world? The Alma de Shikra. It's not true. There is mountains of evidence to suggest that you having endless amounts of cash does not answer your problems. You somehow know it, but you don't really. But if you would meditate on it and you would work on it and you would think about it, do you know what bitachon means? Let me tell you a cute story. I used to be a terribly nervous flyer.
Before you continue with your cute story, I want you to remember about the beef with Americans.
100%.
Therapy.
No, the beef will go on
wanna hear
throughout the
about that,
podcast.
'cause I like it.
It'll go on
But
throughout.
carry
the
on.
podcast. Yeah,
I'll remind you.
good.
I like where this story is going because
Yes, that's why I didn't want to stop.
yeah,
I
it's also because I think someone here is also I used to be
I was a
afraid,
terribly nervous flyer.
and you're still afraid of flying.
I was terrible.
Yeah.
And I've flown so much. My father, again, Zoll sein gesund und stark, amazing man. He said to me, he gave me an analogy. He said, how do you think the plane takes off? I said, I don't know. He said, it's taller than a high-rise building. I think it's a massive thing, an A380 today. He said, how does it take off? He says, it's a miracle. He says, you think anything happens without HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing it? He said, picture the plane being carried in the palms of Hashem and going and being put down. And that, if it's not in the control of God, it's not happening. So what are you freaking out for? You think somehow you sitting there and clinging onto your armrest is going to help? I know it's a natural reaction. It's a natural reaction if somebody hasn't thought it through. Think it through and just let go. You're with Hashem, so just smile. This is not nervousness at this point. It's not going to help. So I used to have to get drunk and stuff and go on long flights. And I remember once coming into London Heathrow. I was flying from Newcastle to London. And I think these little short domestic flights are done with trainee pilots. So it was a terrible landing and it was a hurricane and I was being tossed all over. And I remember thinking, but Hashem's got me. Relax. And it was a mental exercise, but I owned it. And I don't know what Hashem gave me such a bracha. It worked. And I just relaxed. And as the plane's being tossed about, I was just like, I smiled. And my fear of flying was gone.
I don't appreciate this story.
I'm so sorry.
I don't appreciate it because I'm almost in one way envious that you're able to have that thought process, that mindset.
Right.
But I think us regular people,
No.
we can't do that.
That's not
because
true.
By the way, have planes gone down before?
Absolutely.
With those not being carried in the palms of Hashem?
They were.
They were.
They
but
were.
for some
let
reason,
me
he
ask you a
decided that plane should go down.
Okay, so
And
for
that was
you,
the anxiety part. That's what anxiety comes
Indeed,
from.
indeed.
Is God on my side today or is he not on my side today? Number one. Okay, number two, you're making it sound like such a fairy tale story-like thing that he's carrying, and it's a beautiful thought. I'll agree with you, but it is science how the plane is taking off, and God gave the ability to the humans to create that.
Science
and
is
he's,
God.
of course, sort of removed himself from the equation. He gave them the ability to have.
so you're saying a lot of stuff.
Yes.
But let's back up a bit. the simplicity of healthy living is within a human power. You can do it, right? I've physically taken clients from massive phobias and huge anxieties to living very comfortable lives. That you can do, okay? Now, when I said before, we're born healthy and we, contaminate our thought process, I have a huge beef with social media and all of that. I'm not saying it's all bad, but I'm saying it needs to be very much regulated in the same way as you wouldn't give a car to a 12-year-old kid and you wouldn't give a loaded gun to a 12-year-old kid. And there are licenses and there are ways and there are practices and there are healthy training sessions on how to handle a weapon that can kill, car or gun. I think we need to be edging towards that also with social media. It's out there. It has tremendous power, but it also has unbelievable power to corrupt. I can't tell you how many times. I mean, just think about this. In a restaurant, how many times has this happened to you where you're sitting in a restaurant and you see two people, business partners, a couple, out for dinner, lunch, whatever it may be. What happens when one of them goes to the bathroom? Even if they don't have their phone on the table and like, no, I'm listening to you. 1 second, no, you carry on. That was one of my pet peeves. I hate that. Someone's talking to you, eyeball. Sit there, look at them, invest in them. They're investing in you. But even if they don't have their phones on the table, what happens the minute one of them goes to the bathroom?
I'm searching for my phone. I don't know.
The phone is out, and some earth-shattering Facebook post. But you know what? You know what happens when that person gets straight involved in whatever it is that's on the screen? They're missing something, because if you just take in the atmosphere, the sights, the sounds, the smells, just be. We're humans doing. We're not humans being. We need to start just living. Just cut some of the noise out. And when you do that, you start to realize that's the creative space, by the way, where creative thinkers live. Just being able to not be bombarded by something else and just let silence wash over you. It's a very powerful thing. And when that happens, by the way, that's where the fears and the anxieties, even if a plane is going to go down, how would you, I don't want to put it this way, but if a person was on a plane and it was going to go down, how would you rather go down? Screaming and thingy, or saying, you know what, if this is the way it has to be, it has to be. What? You choose.
I'm pretty sure that's the last thing I'm mulling over.
I get you, but 1 second,
That's actually a great point.
But it's
I like that point.
Deep. But yet so profoundly simple. People live their lives worrying that things could go wrong. Yes, you're right, they could. I'm not distancing myself. I'm not naive. But I'm just saying, even if it were to happen and it was out of your power for it to happen, which it clearly is, you still have a choice how you live up until that point. And I think Gibraltar does that well. And I think Americans, begadol, largely don't. And America's a great country. I come here all the time. I love coming here. But if I could wave a wand and change one thing, I would love to change that. We're so worried. I heard, there's a great story that was in the news not so long ago. I know I'm rambling, so stop me whenever you want me to stop me.
Please.
But the number one golfer in the world is a guy called Scotty Scheffler. Right?
By the way, I'm sorry.
Sorry?
Well, she is a major sports guy, so just FYI.
And golf is the least favorite sport of mine. However, I still follow it.
Okay.
And I know exactly who Scotty Scheffler is.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't, but I know that she's
He's the number one golfer in the world and has been for a few years. I don't follow golf either. But what caught my attention was a news story where he was giving an interview just a few weeks ago. I was in Atlanta at the time, and he was about to, one of the majors of the year was being played, I think, in Ireland. And he was being interviewed, by the obsessed American media. Yeah, Scotty, number one in the world, $1 million here, all about this thing. And he just he's like, guys, if you had to ask me, do I want to be a good dad or a good golfer? If I had to die, and I was known for one thing, good person or good golfer, which one would I choose? I'd choose good dad. If I had to give up everything to have a simple life connected to my family and happily and healthy, I would give everything up. He said, and he's a very deeply Christian religious guy. He prays on the course with his caddy. He's an interesting character. But he kind of gave Musa 101 to the American media. And they started to panic a bit Because think about it. He's got sponsors. He's got people who have to say, winning this tournament. You know what he said? He said, I won the most major tournament of my life.
And I don't feel fulfilled.
Correct. And he said, how long do I really feel excited about it?
Yeah.
Maybe 5 minutes. And then I put the cup down and then we move on with life. There's a brilliant article in the Reader's Digest.
By the way, he got a lot of slack for that.
Of course
he got a tremendous amount of slack for that.
Of course, do you know why?
Because he was downplaying the moment and the competition.
Correct.
And that's what they were asking him about. Like, we're not saying you can't be a good father while being a good golfer. They're not mutually exclusive. You can be both. But we're here at the biggest golf tournament in the world.
And how do you feel about it?
One of the biggest events. You just won. How do you feel? I don't want to hear you downplaying it. Oh, golf, it's just a game. Relax. There's millions of people tuning in, watching you at this moment, right now.
I think he was asked a question.
Toe the line.
Right. And I personally don't agree with that. I mean, maybe from a sponsorship perspective, maybe. But I think his answer was so deep and so revealing. And by the way, I'm borrowing it because it's so true. I've got so many clients, Jewish clients, who have been desperate to be successful. Desperate. And success is such an unguarded word because what does success mean? What does it look like? How many dollars is it? Is it what other people say about all these kinds of things? And in a world very obsessed with likes and clicks, and it can be conflated. It can be confusing. And the truth is, success really is an inner deep thing. And what I was trying to say about the therapy before is it's within the reach of every single person. If you're a healthy person in your mind, you can get there. I remember saying this on Sfira Simon and Rabbi Akiva. Everybody knows the story, right? Rabbi Akiva's walking past and he sees at 40 years old and nothing basically in life. And he sees the drips of water and there's, it's made an impression on the stone. I mean, so the deeper analysis of that story is Rabbi Akiva was inspired and he said, okay, I can make changes to my life. And he did. And he became the world leader in Jewish thought and Jewish leadership. And he suffered unimaginable tragedy with this entire dynasty being killed in front of his eyes in a short period of time, 24,000 Talmidim. And what does he do? Dusts himself down and starts again. And from 5 new Talmidim, does the whole thing all over again. It's an astonishing story. But let me ask you a question. That was from the inspiration of some drops of water on a stone? What are you trying to tell me? At 40 years old, Rabbi Akiva didn't know that water can erode stone? What was the epiphany? What was that big moment? So deeper analysis is like this. Rabbi Akiva was walking by and he saw drops of water and he had seen that it bored a hole through a stone. And of course we know what the Gemara says. He said if the soft water can penetrate the hard stone, the powerful words of Hashem's Torah can penetrate my heart. They can change my life. And then the calculation he made was as follows. He said, how many drops of water do you think it took to make a hole in that stone? How many years do you think? And settle on any figure you want.
100 years.
Right, 100 years, billions of drops of water then, right? How many liters of water would that make? How many gallons? I don't know, settle on a figure, right? Rabbi Akiva said like this, if I were to take all that water and pour it on the stone right now.
At once,
in one shot, what would happen to the stone? You know the answer.
Nothing.
Exactly. Said Rabbi Akiva, the secret to success is not necessarily big things. It's small things, but with amazing consistency. And if I'm consistent and I do something tiny, insignificant, what's a drop of water? It won't quench your thirst. It does nothing. It doesn't even register on your radar. But that is a catalyst for everlasting change, meaningful change. I think, again, I love America. It's great people.
By the way, love that.
Isn't that beautiful?
Love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That actually moved me, and it's my mind is spinning right now.
So this is
because you're right. Each individual drop on its own is worthless. All of it at once is worthless. But each drop,
right,
collectively, when you have them consistently over time, does major damage.
So if you want to be success, exactly. What does being a good Jew look like? What does being a good father, husband look like? And the answer is do the little things, very little things, but consistently. Do them all the time. I used to hate davening. I'm not lying, I genuinely love davening. I love it. Being a Baal B'tachon, living with Hashem 101, the plane could be tossed around and I'm okay. That is such a gift. But you don't get it for free. That's work. That's a lifetime of work, and we're always evolving and working on it. And the day you're not working on it, you're regressing, you're going backwards. And I think every good therapist should be helping their client realize that you have it within you. You do. Success is right there. Hashem created you as perfect as you need to be. But just don't let the world, media, everyone else's, what are they saying? Just do you. And don't get contaminated by what's going on in the world. There's a lot of garbage out there.
You were mentioning an article in the Reader's Digest.
Thank you. The Reader's Digest, and this was in the 1980s. This is how far back I'm going.
I used to love the Reader's Digest.
But
Oh my God.
It's gone.
I used to go to the laughing.
Them?
What have there?
That was before phones. There was nothing else to do in the bathroom.
Correct.
Right? And it was pretty much but Reader's Digest was so educational.
It was brilliant.
So informative.
It was brilliant.
And entertaining at the same time.
The jokes.
They had everything.
Brilliant.
They had everything.
It was two things for me growing up. It was the Jewish Press, where I used to go right to the back of it and just the biggest one, and the Reader's Digest. And that was like the two things that I used to read. But
And nobody ever threw away the Reader's Digest. You kept it,
right.
and then you collected them over many years.
By the way, business idea. Imagine someone's got a full collection of years of Reader's Digest. You know what that would sell for?
Go to every single garage sale in the tri-state area. You will guaranteed to find a stack of Reader's Digest.
Beautiful. Do it.
Question is, who's buying it now?
I would.
I know, but Jewish people, religious Jewish people, typically read more than the rest of the world does.
Correct.
Because on Shabbos, we're basically forced to
Right.
have to read. We don't
Right.
have a choice.
Right.
The rest of the world, when are they have their phones with them at all times.
Right.
They never, ever.
even when they're reading, they're on a phone.
Yeah, I was wondering who's reading the Daily News or the Post or any newspaper in any state across the country.
Yeah.
Who's reading that? Maybe an older person, like a senior,
Right.
will
We'll
have
still
it with
buy
his
it.
coffee in the morning.
There's a lot of British people who still like their physical newspaper. That they'll go and buy the Times.
That's because they don't want to see anybody, so they open their paper. Nobody sees them.
Also,
Take knobbing out the rest of the
Exactly.
rest of the
Yeah,
people around them.
absolutely.
So what was the article?
But by the way, the way we consume news today is also from a psychologist's point of view, or a psychological point of view, is changing. You look at the rhetoric, the word genocide getting posted about Israel multiple times on a daily basis. You can see what's happening. There are people who are very carefully manipulating the media to make sure that there is a narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And that narrative is not necessarily accurate at all.
Right.
And it's so dangerous. And again, just to big up Gibraltar, this tiny little island in the middle of nowhere. It's not an island, but it's connected to mainland Spain. But you find some of the healthiest teenagers. It's not like they don't struggle, they do. It's not like we don't have social media, we do. But if we could, my dream would be that it would be a universal understanding that kids don't get phones until they're a certain age. And at 16 or 17, there isn't a teenager who I've interviewed, or I've been intimately involved in their growth in their life. And I've been involved in setting up schools and trying to career advise and make healthy, teenagers. And then the other part of my job in Gibraltar is to be the rabbi for those couples as they settle and try and grow and try and keep them growing and motivated and spiritually growing. And it's a tough job. There isn't a teenager who honestly, one-on-one, will say to me, my phone helped me when I was 16. Who will say that? They won't. They're like, it destroyed me. The anxiety level for girls. There's a brilliant book, if you want to read a great, great book called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt.
Oh my
Recent
God, this
book.
is so funny. You remember I interrupted you earlier and I said
You did.
something? This is what I was going to say. I was speaking to my daughter last night.
Right.
And she's in her 20s, married. And she told me something so profound and interesting. And I couldn't believe it. She said that she believes that her and her generation, when they have teenagers, will not allow phones to their children.
I'm davening that's true.
And you know why she said it to me? Because we're living in a world where we see how much damage it's doing.
This is the first time. There's no data on it. This is the first
That's
generation
right.
that you see.
This is the generation. It
Correct.
was so fascinating. I said, really? And then she told me about this book.
Oh, it's fascinating. Okay, Jonathan Haidt is a great guy. Get him on. He's not Jewish. He's a brilliant person.
Where's he from?
He's American. He's
Okay.
American.
All right. I'd love to get him.
The first book of his I read was called The Coddling of the American Mind, right? How good intentions and bad ideas have set up a generation for failure. He's a fascinating person. I don't really want to talk about it because it's not really, but he's a brilliant person, and he talks about. But back to the Reader's Digest article. It was called Fun or Happiness. And this is in the 1980s. And I think they took a snapshot, sort of like a visual aerial shot of the most privileged place on the planet. I think it was in Hollywood somewhere, where, you know, every single house is a $10 million mansion. This is in the 1980s, right? And, you know, this one belongs to Madonna, and this one's another A-lister, and this one's, I don't know the names.
They had a show back then, you know, to showcase the houses of the millionaires.
That could be,
So,
right?
It was
MTV Cribs.
that was the MTV version. There was another one.
But what's amazing was it gave sort of a statistical analysis of the average earnings of each of those people, right? What was their surplus wealth? How many homes did they own? How many private jets? Of course, there was a house in Malibu and a villa in the south of France, and, you know, maybe a skiing chalet in Switzerland or something like that. And then it went through the list of those people, of how many of them will suffer from, I think, 5 or 6 big indicators that there is something not quite right with their lives. So, for example, domestic abuse, substance abuse, addiction, etc. How many of them will have suffered from any one of those or a combination of those? And of course, they were high into the 80s or the 90%, which highlighted so clearly that being affluent or being free or being successful in the eyes of what the world calls success definitely doesn't answer the more meaningful question. I think that was what was Scotty Scheffler's point. He's right. Golf is great. It's fantastic. And he said these words, "It's given me an extraordinary life." He said, but it can't give me meaning. Now, he may have been slaughtered by his sponsors for saying such a thing.
Nobody asked him if you're getting meaning out of this. Nobody asked him, is this the end-all be-all? Should we all try to aspire one day to be a good golfer and then our lives will be perfect? Nobody was suggesting that.
I don't know the context.
And listen, I didn't appreciate it either, because I thought it came across a little arrogant. It also came across a little bit like he was demeaning, and he was biting the hand that feeds him. At the end of the day, like you just said,
I don't know the
God
context.
gave him a very good life.
He definitely said
and everybody
that.
is watching you. We don't think that you should now become the Dalai Lama. We can suggest that. We're not propping you up on a pedestal. All we're doing is we want to ask you about the moment here and how you feel, whatever. I don't want to get back into that.
Okay.
Why is it, though, that everybody is still chasing all these things? We've had hundreds and thousands of years of evidence, and we all know this. I won't debate you on this. I agree. Money is not going to wipe away and eradicate all of your problems. And there's other ways to attaining happiness that are going to be much more genuine, authentic, more sustainable. I believe all that. And I'm sure everybody else, people listening, we believe that. Why are we still chasing?
What a great question. And the truth is, I don't know if I have the answer. I have an answer which works for me. And again, it's back to the same kind of therapy that has helped me become calm and uninvolved. Now, listen, I'm still ambitious, and I know money has utility value, and that's a very key word there, utility value.
I like that word.
Yeah. It's very important. You can't survive without it. But when you get it, you realize, okay, this is, I mean, there were Jews in Europe who were also obsessed with wealth, and they hoarded wealth. You know, they say a funny story about a psychologist. The guy comes and sees a psychiatrist. So the psychiatrist is sitting there, the client walks in, and the guy says, "Why have you come to see me?" He says, "I don't know." He says, "I'm totally normal." He says, "Okay, so why does a totally normal person come and see a psychiatrist?" He says, "My family made me come. They think I'm crazy." He says, "Okay. Why does your family think you're crazy?" He says, "Doctor, I have no idea. They think I'm crazy because I love pancakes." And the psychiatrist says, "What? That's ridiculous. I love pancakes too." And the guy says, "You do? You should come to my house. I keep suitcases full of them under my bed. I open them. I lay in them. It's amazing." And then, right?
That's good. That's good.
So,
Okay.
why is it funny?
That is.
Why is it funny? Sorry to go all analytic on the joke, but it's crazy because somebody who stores more pancakes than they could ever possibly use, they're nuts. They're crazy. A squirrel doesn't hoard more nuts for the winter than it's going to need, there or thereabouts. People who are chasing money, and there are people out there chasing more money than they can spend in their lifetime, they're crazy. Or they've lost focus, if we want to say it nicely or politically correctly. They're not focused on really what's giving them. Now, we're all stuck in this world which creates powerful images, but those powerful images or not.
Can I give you a defense to that? Can I give you sort of the other side to it?
With pleasure.
I can speak for myself, and I can speak maybe for other people as well, that I imagine money is probably the only thing that can minimize, diminish the other problems. So let's say in your life you have 5 different big issues going on. It's very hard to tackle each of those issues. You know it's going to be a lot of work ahead. You know that it's going to be years and years of talking about it and getting into the weeds of the roots of it, and then trying to remedy it, versus having money will in one way just make everything easier. So that's also a solution, so to speak. So it's not necessarily going to be the epitome of my happiness, but it's going to make everything else better and softer. And just, it's going to make everything seem a little bit more okay. And I think maybe that's why a lot of people chase after money, is because they believe that that is going to mask and disguise all of their other problems. Does that make sense?
Well, it's the old, can money buy happiness?
Right. It can't buy happiness, but it could sure make your misery a lot easier to live with.
Yeah, and back to the Reader's Digest article, I mean, the analysis of the article was, whilst all of these people have extraordinary amounts of money, there's quite a lot of evidence that they don't have a lot of meaning and happiness. And there's a very big difference in fun and happiness. Money can buy you a lot of fun. And I love having fun. I really do. I sound like a very serious person. And for the most part in my life, I kind of am, because I'm very invested in the lives of other people. But I can party hard.
I could see that.
I can. But I think I'll do it in context, understanding that it's important to chill. It's important just to relax and do healthy things. One of the most... I don't know. I go running, and I'm quite athletic, and this. I just go, and then I come back, and I'm a better husband. I'm a better rabbi. I'm a better teacher. I need that. If I didn't relax and blow off steam, and I sing at weddings, and I've sung with fabulous bands all over the world. I get such a buzz out of performing for an audience, but I realize that's just it's a fake high. It's good for what it is. It's a lot of fun. I need that. But that's not it. I need to do much more. And the analysis of the Reader's Digest article was, money can buy you a lot of fun. It certainly can't buy you happiness. Yeah. And there's mountains of evidence. And it's true, you can throw money at problems, but and it can. The utility value of money can mean it can help you find some solutions, but it's not the solution.
No,
and if you give that to your children, or you portray that to people, you're doing a disservice to your children.
Okay.
On the contrary.
Not as a religious person, as a person.
Correct.
What would you suggest to yearn for, to strive for, to gain happiness? Don't tell me the end result. Tell me like a pathway. Like, this is how you should, start putting things in motion right now, start building those blocks. And then eventually you'll get to that place, and that is a very big function of how you can really be happy.
I mean, the truth is, happiness is a journey. And if you want to go to the very deep analysis of it, Rabbi Tatz wrote a book for teenagers, The Thinking Jewish Teen Something Advice for Life, or something on those lines. It's a great read. It's a difficult read. I don't think it's for teenagers at all. And I love Rabbi Tatz. It's so deep. And he has an article there. He has a chapter or two on happiness. And one of the things he says quite a lot, but one of the things he says in the book is, to give it an example, if you're, let's say, a pickleball player or a tennis player, we'll go with tennis, right? If you're an aspiring tennis great, and I put you in front of somebody who you can crush easily, and you win 6-love, 6-love, 6-love in 15 minutes, if you walk off the court and you clench your fists and go, yeah, I destroyed him.
You're a moron.
You're an idiot. I'm like, dude, he's 6 years old. He's just picked up a racket for the first time. Of course you could beat him. There's no happiness in that. But if I put you in front of somebody who's better than you, and they push you to your utter limits, and you are digging deep into your reserves, and every muscle is strained and aching, and you're sweating, and you win, that's a feeling of elation. Why?
It was difficult.
Correct.
I had to earn that.
Correct. By definition, then, happiness means what you break yourself over, what you dig deep within you. One second. It's accomplishment. But true accomplishment is great happiness. It's real meaning. Can I tell you a Dvar Torah, beautiful Dvar Torah, was told to me by Rabbi Twersky when I was starting my degree. I knew I had to sift through so much garbage. So my mashgiach, Zecher Tzadik v'Kodesh Levrach Matziel Salomon, put me in touch with Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twersky, also Zechrono Livracha. And he said, he'll mentor you. And this was crucial for my career as a rabbi and trying to help people grow. And so Rabbi Twersky said to me, listen, I have a lot of people on my case. I'll definitely mentor you, but I have no time for you call me up. We're not going to talk about the weather. We're not going to chit-chat. You have a question? You ask the question. We're busy people. I appreciated that so much. I eventually brought him to Gibraltar. It was beautiful. I have stories about that. I don't know if I have time, right? But he said, Rabbi Twersky said to me, a beautiful Torah. It says at the beginning of the Torah, when it says man was being created, it says Na'aseh Adam, right? In the plural term. Let us make man. And Rashi says, it looks like opponents of Judaism can argue and say there's more than one creator, there are more than one force in creation. And Rashi says, let corrupt people corrupt themselves. That's fine. But the reason why it's written, and there's many, many answers, but the answer I love the most and has motivated me so much and has helped me get to this place of where I'm feeling fulfilled and generally feeling happy. I'm not without challenge. Everybody has tough times, everyone. But it's such a welcoming thing to know that you're having the worst day out there and you can sit with it and you don't try and mask it with any kind of drugs or anything like that. Just be and know that you have within you what it takes to come back. I don't know how long it's going to take, but as sure as the tide goes out, the tide comes back in again. I'm going to ride out this feeling. Feeling low right now, that's normal. That is totally healthy. And I'm going to feel good again. When Hashem created everything, he created it as is. In the elephant is a big elephant. It doesn't have to do anything to become what it needs to become. In the moment that it was created, in its inception, all of it was there. There was one thing that Hashem said, I'm going to put latent, dormant potential in. And for it to become extraordinary, you're going to have to work on it. And that was man. And you can see it. Human beings can rise higher than angels and frankly can sink lower than animals. And where that lies is within you and your freedom to choose. You can have the worst experience ever and you can turn it around and say, this is going to motivate me. This is going to make me into a different person. Rabbi Akiva understood that the drip thing, that's my work. I have to do that every day. And I think to answer your question, I think the person that owns that and really deeply, I don't want to say believes it, owns it, knows it, you've tried it, you've tested it, you can reach extraordinary things in your life and there's no gimmicks. The funny thing is, this is such a difficult sell in the world today, which is desperately trying to get you to believe you need their product to get healthy. I'm saying you don't. You really don't. It's a disservice to your client to say you need me as a therapist to make you better. No, you don't. You need to own this idea. Test it, try it. You can hate certain things. I used to hate running, but I needed to be healthy.
This is why we need therapists. What you're doing right now has to be explained.
Correct.
And then it doesn't just, you have to settle on someone and you got to slowly convince them over time.
I call it
that's therapy.
Give inspiration.
But I think what you're saying with America, why you hate it so much, is because we are a country of drugs. We love our drugs.
I know.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're saying. There's a lot of external substances that are not really, it's within a person.
Look, I don't think you would respect me if I could speak eloquently only when I'm drunk. Like, seriously? That's not the real me. I'm masking it with something. You need to find that confidence without that. And within it, the real answer to it is mindfulness, right? We're so worried about other stuff. That means your brain has X number of % of capacity. If 50% of it is out there thinking, oh, I wonder what people are thinking. If I sit here as I speak thinking, I wonder what you guys out there think of me, I'm not authentic anymore. All of a sudden, I'm there.
Right.
I'm not here. Marriages are there. They should be here. They should be beautifully present. Praying to Hashem should be a wonderful moment where I'm with God. He's with me. All my answers are right there. And that was the question before. $1 billion or God? Of course the answer is God, but it takes work to be able to get to that answer and mean it and think it and live it.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It's tough.
Michael, where do you find these people? That's really cool.
When we were hanging out at 18, 19 years old together.
Yeah, we were.
This Gibraltar thing is really just gnawing at me.
Yeah.
Like, where the heck is this place? And like, you keep, like, you live there for 30 years, I think you mentioned.
Yeah.
Like, there's a community there? There's
Right.
like, why have I never heard of it?
Yeah.
What's up with that?
It's tiny. It really, really is tiny.
I mean, you missed it before. You said
Yeah,
it's
we-
150 families with 4 shuls. That's the
Oh,
entire
that's it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it
yeah.
is very small.
Yeah, it's very,
It's
very
tiny,
small, but
tiny.
it's like, it makes a lot of noise, though. I mean, like, I've heard of it in
it's an
terms of...
extraordinary place, even
Yeah.
from business perspective. I mean, from the Jewish world, it's a special place.
People move there, or people were born there.
So people were born there. The main community is the indigenous community, but it's been a bit of a noisemaker, so it's attracted.
What's the business like over there when you say business?
So it's a business solutions place, not necessarily for Americans so much, but it offers a lot of financial services to companies, and it can provide good banking solutions. It can provide good structures for people who want to set up companies and things like that. So and there are very creative lawyers and accountants there who try to help people structure their businesses in a way that is very tax efficient. Gibraltar is a very tax efficient
You're saying
place.
like similar to like when you make an LLC and like it's
Kind
made
of.
in Delaware,
Right.
Because they have certain laws
Right,
that protect the
right.
LLCs. Doing
I-
things in Gibraltar helps.
Yeah, it does help, certainly for Europeans and non-Americans. I mean, for Americans, you're going to get taxed wherever you make your money.
I think
So-
we have a total of 13 listeners out of America. For those people, I guess it'll be beneficial
Yeah.
to...
Look, especially if you, for example, let's say you're a business in Israel, or you're a
we do have a lot of listeners in Israel, actually.
Right.
So what happens then?
And so they come to Gibraltar and they structure and they set up their companies there.
And that's a benefit for them from
huge.
many different ways.
Huge.
Give me
Yeah.
one way that it's a benefit.
So, for example, all the gaming companies have lots of them have set up their servers and their base of operations in Gibraltar. Corporate tax is very favorable for them. They pay their taxes there. They become residents there. There are 150 unaffiliated Israeli families now living on the rock because of favorable tax positions and what have you.
And they
Yeah.
have to also be there 6 months and a day in order to have residency?
A lot of them actually live there.
Oh, they actually live.
Yeah, this is not some shtick. This is the real deal.
They're enjoying it.
What led you to Gibraltar?
So we did that at the beginning, but
You could tell them the 30-second version.
yeah,
Like,
I was in England. Thought I wanted to go into law. By mistake, got involved with helping some teenagers in my community and just saw the difference between chasing just pure guilt and
You see yourself retiring in Gibraltar?
look, Gibraltar has its challenges. I don't want to say all rosy. I'm a big personality and I'm in a very, very small place.
Yeah.
So I recently stepped down from my day-to-day duties of being involved in the 2 high schools. I still do a lot of community work and what have you, but I view Gibraltar as being a very healthy place in terms of noise and all the garbage. It's been a very, very healthy place.
Yeah. You're somewhat isolated over there.
Correct. So that's the other side of the coin. It's quite challenging. And I view myself staying there for the moment, but traveling a lot more, speaking internationally a lot more, singing internationally a lot more. I haven't really launched that career per se, but
You sing?
kind of.
Really?
Yeah.
Professionally?
As professionally as an amateur's going to get.
Do you get hired to sing?
Yeah.
So then you sing.
I sing.
If somebody's paying you for something,
Yeah.
that means,
Yeah. I do some exclusive events and with
Do you
social
have
events.
a dream of where you want to sing or speak? Is that something that you think about?
Andrea Bocelli, I've always wanted to sing with him.
Really?
Yeah, should I tell you a
Okay.
horrible story?
do you sing that type
No, I don't. I sing chuppah
That's
stuff.
like more
and
opera,
Yeah,
more
I have I like singing chuppahs and stuff, like, and I do it for,
heartfelt.
meaningful moments. I do that.
But we like-
That's my
we like-
Instagram. There
we
you go.
like
That's
horrible,
all it is.
We like horrible stories. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, it's horrible in the sense that I've always, I think Andrea Bocelli sings absolutely beautifully. And I can't remember what event it was. And he came to Gibraltar to do a concert. And one of the people behind the scenes who had arranged Bocelli coming to Gibraltar said to me, "Oh, had he told me you wanted to sing with him, I probably could have made it happen." And I'm just like, seriously?
Yeah.
Okay. But it didn't happen. But
What kind of music do you like?
I'm really an oldies fan. I like the old Jewish music. Like the techno stuff of today really doesn't do it for me.
You know Yossi Green?
Avada.
He was on our podcast.
Legend. Absolute legend.
Yeah, you should listen to that one, to that podcast. He was
now,
great. We realized there's a lot of depth to him beyond his music.
There has to be. You
He
can't
has
produce
incredible
music
stories.
like that if you're not.
I feel like the two of you would connect very well.
I would love. You should have made.
He's a very
Hello?
worldly person. He also likes people. He also is a very big believer. He has a lot of bitachon.
Right.
And he's just very well. He's connected. He's connected to spirituality.
Yeah.
And you seem very similar in that sense. I want you to recognize, though, Noiky, there's a lot of people that are not like that. Almost too many people. I want to say the majority. The majority of people are not connected. We're struggling.
Right.
We're struggling with
I know.
it. And as time goes on, we're getting more and more removed. And there's more distractions. You think there's distractions now.
Right. It's getting
wait
worse.
5 years, wait 10
Right.
years. You'll see what distraction really looks like. It's just getting worse. And this is probably the work of the devil, let's call it. He's out there, he sees what the potential, and he's hustling, man. He's
Right.
not,
Right.
he has got good work ethic. And he's putting more and more and more things out there in front of us that just distract, because we're getting very close, I believe, to the end of times. We're getting
100%.
close, right?
100%.
And he sees it's crunch time. We're in the fourth quarter.
Right.
We're in the fourth quarter. It's late in the game.
What are you talking about? It's fourth down time.
It's fourth down time.
How do you like that analogy from an Englishman? There you go.
He feels all proud. He worked
Right.
out a
There you
real
go.
football analogy.
I still don't know what it means, but go on. I'm joking.
Yes, last 2 minutes in the fourth quarter.
you
It's
go.
not just fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, I'm saying most of us are. It's very challenging. It's struggling. It's very, and it's very daunting, because I know my kids are going to have a bigger struggle than I even had.
Yeah.
And it's very nervous. So hearing you speak about all those things today, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
You're speaking logic, and there's a lot of credence to what you're saying. I agree with it. But in a part of me is sort of laughing it off, like, yeah, easier said than done.
That's the
like,
problem.
Easier said than done. Thank you. You're onto it, but now I got to execute it. Now I got to do it.
Correct.
Good luck. That's where all the work lies.
Well, by the way, the work is wonderful. I don't think we should shirk that. It's true. And by the way, if you want your children to be in a better place, I'm sorry to say it, Charlie, but you've got to be in a better place.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, look in Shema, we say, we talk about you want your kids to walk in a spiritual path, and that's the collective, right? And all of a sudden it says, all of a sudden it goes singular.
Yeah.
Why? Moshe Rabbeinu is talking to all of Klal Yisrael. Hashem's talking to all of the Jewish people. And the answer is, you want collectively Jewish people to have amazing kids. Be amazing in your house. When you're sitting
Again,
here, what
hard to
motivates
do.
you?
I understand it's a nice idea.
Hard, but
The better you are, the better off your kids will be, and your
Right.
family, and the people around you will be happier if you're
right.
happy.
And to make
Very hard.
everlasting change,
Yeah.
you have to take small measures, small steps. Let's do little things.
Yeah.
You know?
That's something like, how do you do a lot of preaching and a lot of speaking, and
Yeah.
you work with teens and with families and with couples, and,
Yeah.
and you're amazing, by the way. I'd hire you. Like, if I would love to sit with you for an hour. It's just you make me I feel better. I feel a little bit better after hearing these things, especially that water drip analogy.
Thank
on
you
the
for saying
rock.
that.
That's
It
gold.
made such a difference to me.
That's gold.
It's
That really
gorgeous.
is.
It's gorgeous.
gold. And that deeper analysis that you gave, because I thought of it always as the very basic thing, that the way,
right.
that anything over time, will eventually erode. But it's not that. You missed the main point. If you put all of it at once, it won't work.
Nothing will happen.
You put a little bit, and then
But you
put,
agree with me that America's trying to do it bigger, better,
Yes,
faster.
always, yes.
It's exactly the wrong thing
Yes.
to do.
I mean, but America is the biggest, strongest country. So they're doing
And there's
something
huge,
right.
there's huge admiration for that.
Yeah.
And by the
You
way,
know that the rest of the world always loves to hate on America.
Yeah.
But everybody takes their money. Everybody takes their money. Let me ask you, what do you do for work? How do you support yourself? How do you have like some big
So I work for the Jewish community of Gibraltar and have done for many decades. Helped set up schools there. So I'm very involved in a boys' high school, a girls' high school, and half of my time is spent very much under the radar. I call it in the trenches, sitting with families. I have little groups of couples or men or women, and I give shiur and we learn together. And it's just this principle, just in action. That's it. Just how can we be more present, less anxious, more focused? Doesn't mean not ambitious. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean naive. It means just go about your challenges in a healthy way. And perspective is so powerful. So powerful. Can I tell you an amazing story? There was, I was hired to go to speak in Toronto a number of years ago, and I remember saying this story. It was in this time of the year. It was in the Shiva de Nechemta, right? Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami. We're talking about having just come from Tisha B'Av, and Hashem says He wants us to be comforted. Comfort is a very strong word, but it's also quite elusive if you think about it. What's Nechama? What's the root of the word Lenachem? Right? It means you talk to somebody with insurmountable tragedy, and well, if you're British, say there, have a cup of tea. What do you do? Sorry for the sarcasm, but what does it mean? And it's a concept that I struggled with a lot. And I do a lot of bereavement therapy. I do a lot of visits. All the hospital visits of people who are dying and with their families, etc. And Gibraltar is very Sephardic custom. It's beautiful. They sit the whole time with the person, and if the person's looks like they're slipping away, they say vidu with them and shema with them. It's a very, very special Chavra Kadisha. But again, the question, what does comfort look like? So I'll tell you a story which is astonishing, utterly astonishing. I said this story in Canada, and I've said it many times. But I think it was in 2002, on September the 30th, Sergeant Ari Weiss was shot and killed by a sniper bullet, I think in Nablus. And Rabbi Stuart and Susie Weiss, who had emigrated to Israel from the United States, were sitting Shiva. Can you imagine? For their, I think, 21-year-old son. I think he was a few months shy of his 22nd birthday, if I've got the details correct. And can you imagine these poor young Israeli soldiers, his comrades, his platoon mates, go to pay a Shiva visit? And the proverbial, what do you say? Like, what does one say? What does a person say? And as they were, shifting from foot to foot, but credit the Israeli society, they show up. They don't know what to say, but they're there anyways, which is arguably one of the most beautiful and powerful things we can do as people, is just be there. I'll just break off because I do this while I speak. I think it was Rav Aryeh Levine who once was walking in the streets of Yerushalayim, and he saw a notice on the side of a door saying the Shiva house this way. And he said, a Jew is sitting Shiva. I don't know who they are. I'm going to go and pay a Shiva call. So the great holy tzaddik, Rav Aryeh Levine, goes up the stairs, finds the corridor, goes down the alleyway, and he finds this house of total strangers who are sitting Shiva. And he shuffles in, and of course they see the great presence. They stand up. The Avedim sit down. And he sits in the corner of the room, and he just sits there, quietly, present, listening, hearing their tears. And after about 20 minutes of saying nothing, he stood up, and he bowed his head, and he said, Amokim Yenachem as ani left. And the Avelim said afterwards, that was the greatest comfort. He comforted us. We could just feel he was with us. Sometimes not being a human doing, just be a human being, just to be, is so, so powerful. But these young soldiers, they came to Rabbi Stuart Weiss and his wife Susie, who was sitting Shiva. They came from America. They made Aliyah. Their son signed up. And like years later, they're burying him. It's like, what does one say? And as they were sitting there, sort of behind Rabbi Stuart Weiss was a shelf, a mantelpiece. And on it was a mangled, twisted piece of metal. And one of the soldiers said, Rabbi, isn't there a story behind that piece? It's a very odd ornament to keep in your front room. And Rabbi Stuart Weiss, from sitting Shiva, took it down off the shelf and was playing with it in his hands. And he was just looking at this mangled, twisted piece of metal. And all of a sudden, he burst out crying uncontrollably, and he started to wail out loud, and it was so awkward. Everybody in the room's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Didn't say anything. He was sitting fine 2 minutes ago, and all of a sudden now, and after what seemed like an absolute age, he put up his hand and he says, guys, I have to tell you something. I'm blown away. But he was like, couldn't talk. And eventually he composed himself, and he says, guys, let me tell you a story. And he said, my wife and I always wanted to move to Israel. Israel's everything. This is our home. This is our place. He said, but we, Americans, we were used to the luxuries of America. We love America. America's got a lot of great stuff going on for it. Of course, people love to hate on it, but there's tons of good. Tons of good. He said, but before we emigrated and before we moved to Israel, we said to ourselves, instead of sitting in our comfortable pods wherever we are and, let's go out there. Let's try and do a service for our Jewish brothers and sisters who are not being serviced. They're out in the middle of nowhere. And I think they went somewhere out into the Midwest. And they set up a youth, like a Hillel house, like a youth place for where there was tons and tons of students, but no Shabbos programs going on, And Rabbi Stuart Weiss set up a place, and he started to do kiruv in the middle of nowhere. And just across the way from him was a Reform temple. And Rabbi Weiss made connections with the Reform temple and sat down with the rabbi there and said, look, I'm an Orthodox rabbi, you're a Reform rabbi. I know we disagree on a lot of stuff, but we can agree to disagree. I can still love you. Right? There's a beautiful phrase. I love this, and I wish, as all Jews, we would adopt this. You can disagree without being disagreeable. We can disagree, but you end with a hug. Yeah, that's the way it has to be. I remember I once gave a speech and somebody was not happy with what I said. This happened to me. And I got a stinging, scathing attack email, right? And after I soothed myself off, it hurt. And I took time before I answered. And I answered and I said something on the lines of, look, let's say this guy's a dentist. I wouldn't come into your practice and tell you how to do your job. I'm not a dentist. Last time I checked, you haven't done a degree in smicha and education and a degree in therapy. You want to question why I'm doing things? Be a mensch. Come and ask me. Don't attack me. Don't tell me how I should do it. But express your concerns, preferably over coffee or lunch. And credit to this guy, the guy who attacked me says, absolutely, Rabbi, let's do it. And we sat for a lunch. It was 2 hours. And we fought like cats and dogs. But at the end of it, he said to me, okay, Rabbi, I hear where you're coming from. It's not necessarily something I would have done or thought. But you know what? I'm significantly inspired to hear that that's your message and you're sticking by it. And I see where you're coming from. I have respect for you. I'm not going to do it. And we ended with a hug. You should know he's one of my fiercest and staunchest supporters today. Because, Rabbi Stuart Weiss did something similar. He sat with his Reform counterpart and he said to him, look, we don't have to agree, but we do have to care about each other. Exactly. And they had a great relationship. They did. And it was time to wrap up and they were going to go to Israel. He said, do me a favor. Before I leave, do me the honor. Be ambitious. Be daring. Give me your youth for a Shabbaton. I know that Reform. Come with. See what an authentic Shabbos looks like for us. You don't have to do it. And you don't even have to agree with it. But experience it, taste it, and then make the choice for yourself.
Fair request.
Right? And you know what? Probably, I would say, I'm interjecting here, because of the love and the bond that they had, this Reform rabbi agreed. Rabbi Stuart Weiss went home and said to his wife, Susie, this has to be the mother of all Shabbos, right?
Yeah.
It has to be superb.
The
so they
stakes
went
are
about,
high,
there
the
you go.
pressure is on.
Absolutely. And so they went about organizing this spectacular weekend. And they did. They put all their energy into it, and it was a special Shabbos. They took out some resort, and Rabbi Stuart Weiss, as he's sitting there, sitting Shiva, saying to the crowd, he said, as long as I live, I'll never forget the name of the place that we went to. It was called Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. Like some Red Indian name. You don't have to feel allowed to say that anymore, right? Guardians' names, right? Yeah. Right? This English guy knows. Okay.
He's up to speed.
There you go, right? Yeah, an Indian name, Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. And he said, you should know that Shabbos was, the angels were with us. It was gorgeous. We linked arm in arm from teenager with non-from teenager. We made bonds for life. And he said, as I sit here today, many years later, there are still some of those teenagers who were on that trip who are now fully fledged, committed Jews because of that love, because of that Shabbos. I'll treasure that Shabbos as long as I live. He said it was my greatest achievement as a rabbi. It was so moving. It was so meaningful. It was so deep. He said, I'm sitting here mourning the loss of my young child. There's nothing anyone in the world can say that will make me feel better. No one. He said, but this is amazing. Because last year, my son got hit by a bullet. And you know how the Israeli soldiers, they fling their rifles across their chest and the butt is up this way? And very often with a gumi is an extra clip, an extra magazine clip, right? He said the magazine clip was over my son's heart. And the bullet hit it and ricocheted off. And he was with broken ribs and everything. But I keep that piece of metal of his clip on my shelf all the time, just as a reminder of the day my son's life was saved. He said, it seems that the United States are sending stuff over to Israel and they're supplying our military with some equipment. Because as I hold this magazine clip in my hand, I kid you not, he said, I see on the bottom, it says, made in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. I get goosebumps just saying it.
Wow.
He said, I can only assume Hashem's talking to me and saying to me, Rabbi, your son's number was up a long time ago.
I gave you another year.
I gave you more time. And if we could look at life like that, everybody knows life ends. This is a journey. We're only on a journey. Money or no money, we're on a journey. And what we have to achieve in this lifetime is precious. It's infinite, but we're doing it with our finite hands. He said, it's so interesting. He said, what is nechama? The word nechama, lenachim, can also mean to re-look at the same thing. Just look at it with a different perspective, to reconsider. Vayinochem Hashem. He said, I'm truly comforted. I look at my son's death now, not as a death of a young man, but of a privilege of having had extra time with the most profound, wonderful neshama. And I get to call him mine. And I got to, he said, Hashem, it's the biggest gift.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Right?
Wow.
Noiky, you know, I knew you when we were 17, 18.
Sure,
you were not like this. We were playing soccer.
Right.
We were doing karate and gun soccer.
Right.
We were having a good time.
Yeah.
I knew you had something in you, and it's been a long time. I think I haven't seen you in over 3 decades,
Yeah,
bro.
long time.
Like, this is amazing.
Is this the first time you've seen each other?
I mean, no, we hung out. We hung out 2 days ago for the first time in 28
Really?
years.
But we haven't had a meaningful conversation.
I feel like I got a free therapy session.
You
but
know-
also I got so like inspired by you.
That
You're an
means a lot.
inspiring person. You
Means
really
a lot.
are. And the stories that you said touched the heart. Especially that last story really took the cake.
Thank you.
And you know what? I'm leaving today a better person for it. Like, this is going to sit with me.
That means a lot.
It's really going to sit
Really
with me.
means a lot.
And I hope our listeners are going to appreciate this as much as I am. And I think they will. Very hard not to let words enter into your heart that's coming from the heart. And what's clear about what you're doing, and Michael, you guys met each other, last time 30 years ago. He went in one direction. You went in another direction. You went in the business sector, into the business world, and very successful. He went into, the chinuch and the education, the people business, and also being very successful. And it's just two different journeys. It's funny how you're colliding again all these years later.
Loving it.
And you could still learn from one another after all
absolutely.
these years. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And what's also amazing is that, usually we started asking our guests, for a message or who your mentor was. I'm finding that we don't even have to ask it anymore. It's
Oh my
just-
God, we got a bunch of messages.
just coming out
It would be
naturally.
interesting to say something like
Right,
that.
exactly.
What would your message be?
Right,
What do you
right.
think you've been doing in the last
So
hour?
I love
Have you
it.
been listening? Where have you been?
Compliments to all of us in terms of what we're doing and our growth here on the None of Your Business podcast. And it's been amazing. We can't wrap up, though, without our staple of asking you, who would you recommend who would fill that seat well? I think you know about that question that we're going to come to. So do you have anyone in mind that you would think of that would be a good guest here?
There are many, many, many people that would come to mind. But there's one, I think, brilliant speaker, historian. His name is Rabbi Aubrey Hirsch. He works for the JLE in London. And he's a fascinating person just because he's a wealth of knowledge. He's super detail orientated. He's done hundreds and hundreds of trips to Poland. He knows about our history so much. And I think he's a fascinating person to talk to.
Yeah, he lives in London.
He comes
Yeah,
here.
he comes here?
Yeah. What I'm going to do is, there he is. You see his name? Aubrey Hirsch, right?
Okay.
We'll do this. Lean in, everyone. Right? Is you there? No, I can't get you in.
Yep.
And I'm just going to say, there's the picture. You could see it.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right.
Looks
Gonna
great.
Think you should be on this podcast.
Amazing. All right. Before we leave, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, what's this podcast all about?
It's turned into a very meaningful, growth-oriented podcast. Things that we're taking from people. We both bring a tremendous value to the listeners, and it has a depth, a meaning, and also an entertaining and a fun. So you talk about happiness and fun.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're all about.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Mix them.
and I really like that. I like that Reader's Digest title. Happiness and fun. That's really what it's all about here, and we're loving it. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you to all of our listeners, our subscribers, our commenters. We're loving the growth. Thank you to the Prime Source production team. Thank you so much for Twillery, Elimelech Bloomstein, and thank you to Sachi and Yaakov Langer for really bringing it out of us and making it happen. And that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.